Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
And I'm supposed to speak now, I guess. And I'm Sergeant Draino.
And this is Inevitable, a podcast that overheats on the freeway because this week we watched Many Happy Returns.
Written by Anthony Skene.
Directed by Joseph Surf, allegedly.
And aired on November 10th, 1967.
Right, we're back with another surprise guest because, as is apparently normal during quarantine Decorative vegetable hours, we forgot to announce the General that Sergeant Draino would be joining us for this episode. So, cool. surprise guests up the wazoo for us this week and month.
Oh, did you have somebody guesting on the General? I guess this is old news by now. But I
not on the General, but on shoot, what did we watch for torture and Keon? Totally forgot. Oh, Greeks bearing gifts. Why was that so hard to remember?
Check out Trust Your Doctor, a Doctor Who podcast. / now a Torchwood podcast.
Same thing.
Same difference, yeah.
You can call it Trust Your Captain.
Trust your group captain.
Or maybe don't trust your captain. It might be more accurate.
Yeah. Trust Ianto, and then have your trust broken, shattered into a million pieces.
Wait, why are we having our trust shattered into a million pieces if we're the ones trusting Ianto? Surely it's the other way around.
What? Why?
Ianto was the one whose trust was shattered, right? Not the other way around, not people's.
Well,
I guess.
he did build that Cyberman thing inside Torchwood without telling anybody.
I suppose. But I mean, I don't know. I think he had some reason to do so. His girlfriend was half cyberized.
Mm-hmm.
He has reasons, but they're not compelling enough to get him off for this.
For this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, I guess.
He definitely got a written reprimand in his record for that one. He is not going to meet his performance review.
Well, there's another person whose trust was absolutely shattered, and his name is Peter Smith, a.k.a. Number 6.
His name might be Peter Smith.
Yeah, it might be. I totally forgot about this, and yeah, my mind was basically blown just realizing that might actually be his real name.
Yeah. It's like, on the one hand, he doesn't really seem like a Peter to me, but, and I've heard it said, like, even in books, they'll be like, there's no reason to believe that's his real name, but I don't know. I'm not sure I'd agree with that, because he's trying to convince the lady that he really did used to live there, and he's looking at records and car records and stuff, so wouldn't he want to give her a name that's going to show up on those records?
Yeah, especially since he asks her for the leasing agreement, and then he's like, my name's, like, the name of the previous owner's not on here. Like, it would have not served him to give him a fake name and then look at the leasing agreement and, it's a totally different name.
Exactly.
So, number 6, Peter Smith confirmed.
Unless his confidential job is so confidential that even his private residence is under some sort of alias.
Yeah, maybe he just didn't want too many people to know that he was actually a clown, you know?
I thought he was a barber.
Yeah, or a barber. I think we made the clown joke because we thought it would be funny to imagine Patrick McGowan in clown makeup for 17 episodes in the village. Because you brought up the outfit he was wearing, and we were like, what if he was a clown, though?
Speaking of Patrick McGowan and, being totally serious, I just remembered that Keith actually forwarded me a sort of story about Patrick McGoohan going off on someone.
Yes.
So I'm gonna try and find it. It was on Twitter. I'm gonna see if I can.
Shocking.
I'm gonna see if I can find it. So I'm just stalling. This is what this little tangent is me stalling to see if I can find it.
Well, I can. While you're looking for it, I can ask you guys about. I don't think I've heard you guys talk about number two's umbrella yet. You've talked about his scarf, but not his umbrella. His special umbrella. Did you notice his special umbrella?
Honestly, didn't even notice that he had an umbrella.
Really?
Gonna be honest.
Yeah, when in this episode, when number 6 breaks into the Green Dome, it's like the one thing that's left sitting in the egg chair there. The umbrella is sitting there, and it's got kind of an unusual looking handle on it, and that's because it folds out and becomes a seat.
Huh.
Yeah.
Huh. That's so weird.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Or maybe I didn't even know it in the first place. My first 2 watch-throughs, maybe I didn't even pay attention.
Yeah, he's got a weird looking
Kind of
umbrella.
expect his scarf to be the thing left behind. I did notice the butler's got an umbrella.
Yeah, but he doesn't get a seat on his.
Yeah, I mean, but an umbrella with a seat is a luxury item,
I guess.
even in the regular world.
Yeah.
And weirdly enough, it never rains in the village except that one time in A, B, and C.
Oh yeah.
So I found the little write up. This is from Facebook. Apparently this happened. I'm just gonna read it. Yeah.
Apparently this happened.
I'm just gonna read it verbatim. Patrick McGoohan with Canadian director David Cronenberg, I don't know who that is, on the set from the movie Scanners.
Is that dude who made those weird movies? Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. I know what you're talking about, yeah. It is Cronenberg. Yeah, Cronenberg.
Mm-hmm. All right, so it goes on.
Of Rick and Morty fame.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They go to a world where there's a bunch of freaked out monster things, and they call them Cronenbergs, I think, because Cronenberg is known for making movies with a bunch of messed up stuff in them.
Yeah.
All right, well, the story goes, movie and TV icon Patrick McGoohan had his Scanners co-star Jennifer O'Neill in tears on the set of the cult 1981 film by ripping into her for marrying 3 times. A fervent Catholic, the Prisoner star took exception to O'Neill's personal life and didn't hold back in letting her know. Director David Cronenberg recalls, he had extreme Catholic views about sexuality, which came onto the set. My leading lady, ... came to me incredibly distraught and said, Patrick said, are you a whore? Are you a slut? And he started to lay into her because she'd had like 5 husbands. That was Patrick, and those were the things I had to deal with as a relatively young director. He was probably the most difficult actor I ever worked with, though he gave a fantastic performance, end quote. At the time, O'Neill had wed 3 times. She went on to marry another 2 men and has been wed to Mervyn Locke since 1997.
Sounds like she didn't learn her lesson.
Well, I mean, that's certainly a message you could take from that.
Well, my biggest takeaway is that Patrick McGoohan was truly a wonderful, wonderful man in real life.
Say what now?
You don't want anyone to hold back in their opinions. If everyone was just totally honest, I think the world would be a better place. So,
I mean, that requires you to be honest, and I don't think Patrick was being honest there.
Well, he was being honest about his own feelings, I guess.
Yeah.
Or maybe he was just trolling. Maybe he's a notorious troll.
Well, maybe if Fallout is any indication, that's somewhat of a trollish episode, trollish way to end the series, you might say.
I think maybe it was just a ploy to find out why she resigned. He was trying to break her.
Yeah, trying to make her quit and then find out why she quit.
Yeah.
Today we learned that number 6 is a bad number 2.
Or a good number 2.
Oh,
He's
jeez.
definitely good at pressing those buttons when he's number 2.
Yeah, but
Pressed
I
all
mean,
the
he didn't
buttons.
find anything out.
Actually,
Useless.
I think that episode, Free for All, where he becomes number 2 briefly, I think that is the only time in the whole series that he sees that control room with the seesaw.
I wonder if that means anything.
Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, beats the heck out of me.
Resident prisoner expert Keon stumped. More at 11.
I will say, I mean, there's lots of characters in lots of movies that are really, really interesting, right? And over the years, I think I've observed that the most interesting characters are ones who, if you met them in real life, would be like total dicks.
Oh boy.
Like Avon. Great character, but I mean, what would it be like to actually hang around with that guy? It would be terrible.
Yeah, true. Yeah, wow.
Zenith, a Trust Your Doctor Decorative Vegetable podcast. Check out Zenith.
Yeah,
Zenith really was the zenith of decorative vegetable content. Just gonna
yeah.
say.
We never hit that high again.
What about the golden age? You're in it, bro.
Well, it's all downhill, so years from now we'll be like, man, remember when we were watching The Prisoner? Those were good times.
That's right.
Everything just gets worse. You heard it here, maybe not first, but you heard it here loudest and clearest, folks. Nothing gets better. Nothing will ever be good again.
I forget, Ken.
I don't like that.
Did you tell us? You probably did. I just forgot. What were the circumstances in which you were introduced to this TV show? How did you first see it?
Well, in
Keon.
2015 or 16, I was introduced to a lot of weird British shows like this and Sapphire and Steel just via like the internet at large. And I heard this show was really weird. So I decided to, and yeah, I just decided to watch it.
Oh, okay.
And that was that.
Wow, that's not very exciting.
Yeah. Had a month where I was like unemployed. So I was like, nah, might as well.
There you go. Let's see. For me, I was, I think it was in high school at the time. And me and my brother would watch like TV. I guess at the time we felt like it was late at night, but it probably wasn't that late. But The Prisoner was airing on PBS during that time. And my dad was there, and it came on. We just were flipping around. We saw it came on. First episode I ever saw was Free for All. And I was like, what's this? And my dad was like, this is The Prisoner. I'm like, oh, what's it about? He's like,
I mean, accurate. At least he prepared you for the confusion you were about to face.
Yeah. Yep. So, and then of course I had to find out if he ever did get out of there. So, couldn't stop watching. It's great.
You became a prisoner to the prisoner.
That's right.
Well,
how did you?
All of those are better than my story.
What's your story, Dylan? I mean, you obviously this is your first time watching, but you knew about the show before this, right? Was that through me actually, or was?
Yes.
Oh.
Literally the whole story is Keon was like, hey, I'm watching this show called The Prisoner. It's pretty good. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then later we were like, hey, we should do The Prisoner for the podcast. I'm like, all right, cool. We'll do The Prisoner.
I initially didn't want to, actually. When we started Inevitable, I was like, you know what? We probably shouldn't watch The Prisoner just because of how, I don't know, just how much of a dive we'd have to do into it. But I'm glad we made the decision. I'm glad we're watching it now.
Oh, yes.
I'm glad one person was like, hey, you should do The Prisoner. And we gave in. And we're like, yes, you're right. We should do The Prisoner.
Lots of meat on these bones. Meat.
Now that we've all got that out of the way, let's talk about some production information with respect to Many Happy Returns. Mostly by the strange fact that there's like a male number two's voice in the title sequence to preserve the mystery of the reveal that occurs later in the episode, including going so far as to replace the regular shot with number two with just an extra shot of Rover. I guess Rover's number two this week. Guess that's the plot twist.
No, we're not at that episode. We're not at that episode yet. No, I'm kidding.
Or are you?
Can you imagine an episode where Rover is number two?
Maybe.
I would watch that episode.
Maybe I can imagine it. You don't know.
Forcibly, since we're watching all the episodes for the podcast. So yes, you would watch that episode.
We could just skip an episode, tell no one, skip an episode, and act as if that episode didn't exist, and then we could try and convince our audience into being like, wait, I thought that episode existed, and we'll just act like it doesn't, and then we'll just have them second-guessing their entire reality.
Custom viewing order, bro. You're supposed to skip episodes.
Yeah, my custom viewing order just skips the general entirely.
Mine is just Arrival and then Fallout. Skip all the filler. All killer, no filler. It's the name of my custom viewing order. Yeah, there you go.
There are quite a few episodes you probably could skip. I mean, I wouldn't suggest that you do, but you could skip quite a few episodes.
Yeah, I think you could easily skip episode 14 and 15 without saying any more than that to keep the surprise up for Dylan. But I think you could easily skip 14 and 15.
Considering which ones are 14 and 15 is kind of depends on who you ask.
No, yeah.
You're really saying something there.
The girl who's deaf and Living in Harmony. I think you could easily skip those.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I absolutely disagree.
They're good episodes.
Disagree. Yeah.
But I don't know.
I think, in particular, the girl who was deaf has a lot more in there than you might think at first.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my custom viewing order is just those two episodes and skip everything else. My custom viewing order is the first 10 minutes of Arrival, 20 minutes from Freefall, 3 minutes from Many Happy Returns, 6 minutes from The Girl Who Was Death, and then 8 minutes from Fallout. Construct the perfect run of minutes for the Prisoner.
That reminds me of a YouTube video I saw yesterday. It was the Imperial March, but every other note is missing. So, it was extraordinary.
It's like those ones I've seen where it's like some song, but the second and fourth beat are swapped, and it's just really annoying.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. It reminds me of some guy who like watched every single Marvel related content that's ever been released and wrote down like the chronological order of every minute of every one of those movies, including going like first 3 minutes or first 5 minutes of Ant-Man, then you watch this, that, and then you finally return to the rest of Ant-Man. Like, oh, jeez, why would you do this?
That's like the guy who did chronologically Lost, where he re-edited Lost together in chronological order.
Oh, God.
Well, I'd love to have that much time on my hands.
Yeah, same.
And use it to do more productive things than...
Yep. If I was still getting paid, mind you. Gotta still get paid.
I mean, you always have the ability to have that much time on your hands by just quitting your job.
Yeah.
And then you could have that time on your hands.
All it takes is private, personal, by hand, and then break a coffee cup.
Yeah, that's
I think we cracked it. He resigned so that he could edit Lost together in chronological order.
He just didn't have enough time to edit Danger Man into chronological order. So he resigned.
Yep.
He's just like, damn, wish they would let me just get to my damn job and edit this damn thing. And they're like, no, sorry, we need to know why you resigned. And he's like, but if I tell you, you won't give me the time to do what I resigned to do.
Yeah, that's a real catch-22 there for number 6.
Catch-22.
Catch 6.
That seems like it should be the title of a Prisoner episode where the prisoner meets this other prisoner named number 22 and, like, he gets away or something.
Catch 22. They assign 6 the job of catching 22.
Exactly.
And then he fails. He just fails. So they send him over.
Yeah.
They're like, see, even this autonomous blob can do it better than you, number 6. What are you good for? Nothing. You're useless. You're worthless.
Well, I didn't have too much more making of stuff for this one.
Did you mention any making of stuff yet?
Either.
Apparently...
Oh, you said when it was made. Did you have any, like, details?
Well, I didn't find too much for this. Apparently, I guess just a little tidbit. Apparently, the first line of dialogue is spoken like around 16 minutes into the episode, and the first English line of dialogue is like 23 minutes in.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's true. Because the guys, the gun runners talk. Yeah.
Yeah, they're apparently speaking in German. I didn't realize that until I looked it up.
Yeah, one of them says Schnell, I think, which means fire. And then the first English dialogue is number 6. And what he says is also the same thing as the third sentence spoken in the whole series. He says, "Where is this?"
Huh.
Suspicious.
Which is what he asked the lady at the shop when he first arrives in the village. He says, "Where is this?"
Huh. Well, considering he never actually really escaped the village in this episode, maybe that's kind of a hint to, like, you know, he's still kind of within their framework.
What makes you think he
Within
didn't
their
actually
grasp.
escape?
Just the fact that, like, they were, you know, on to him the whole time.
What makes you think they were on him the whole time?
Well, I mean, the structure of this episode seems to suggest that, like, he never actually really got away, that this was all just part of some larger plot.
Certainly, I think that's what they want him to think at the end of it all.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
I guess that poses the question, like, is there a difference between what number 6 thinks and what's actually the truth?
Well, sure. Look
Well, I guess there hasn't been so
Mm-hmm.
far, I guess is my point. Like, so far, everything that number 6 thinks is the truth. And this is the first episode that really poses the question, like, is what number 6 thinks the truth? Or is that too even just something that the village has control over?
Well, I mean, it's been a running theme in the whole show for the village to try to get number 6 to think something that isn't true. Mm-hmm. Just like in Schizoid Man, that's a very clear example. And eventually, he figures it out in Schizoid Man, you know, what is true and what isn't true. And in this episode, I guess we don't really know what he thinks at the end of it all. Does he think that he did get away for a while, or does he think that they planned the whole thing? And we don't really know because they don't tell us. We don't know what's in his mind.
And we'll probably never find out because next week the time loop resets.
Well, there is, like, at the end of this, there is that, like, kind of indication, and maybe this is part of their plan to kind of break him or show him that they're in charge, or, I mean, I don't even really know what this is, but, like, there's that indication that, like, no time has really passed. You know, it's been weeks. He spent weeks on that raft. He spent days, like, you know, getting back to his house. And then when he winds up in the village again, it's as if it's the same morning that he left.
Yeah,
Yep, the cat's sitting there with the busted teapot.
Yeah, and he goes into his house and like all the stuff he was trying to do is like now working. Like the shower turns on and the kettle turns on.
right.
And yeah, so like that I think that's part of their like method in this episode of trying to break him. But it even poses that question, like, what the hell actually happened? Like, are they trying to convince him it was all some sort of dream or something? I don't know.
Well, the great thing about The Prisoner is that there's plenty of room for fans to have their own opinions about that, and of course, I've got some thoughts on that, and you guys do too. That's what makes for interesting discussion.
Don't we all? Don't we all have thoughts on it? I mean,
I don't think anyone's watched The Prisoner and was just like, that was weird.
that was weird. No other thoughts. There is one other little production note that apparently this is the final episode that series co-creator George Markstein worked on.
Interesting.
Before, I guess, Patrick McGowan's ego and egomania drove him up the wall, so he left.
He's also in this episode, so just like he is in the intro sequence when number 6 goes into his little office thing, that's George Markstein behind the desk.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Whose teacup gets poorly shattered.
It'd be funny if he broke it again just for the hell of it.
So this episode actually includes that in the episode. The cat breaks the teacup. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Wow.
Number 6 is the cat.
The cat is the new number 6. 6 has to figure out why he resigned.
He's wearing all black fur. But
we're close to cracking this thing wide open.
The prisoner code.
Yeah, talking about Markstein and McGowan, I guess they're kind of like the Damon and Carlton of The Prisoner. And McGowan, it's funny how different, their views on the show are. Because, of course, McGowan always said that number 6 is not John Drake. And he also said that The Prisoner is an allegory. Whereas Markstein said The Prisoner was John Drake. And that it was, while there were some symbolic elements in it, it's still a show based in, like, a reality. It's not everything in there is just allegory for something else. What do you guys think?
I honestly have no idea. 2.5 watch-throughs through this show, and 4 years of knowing of this show, I honestly have no clue. There's so much contradictory information that this show throws at you and just says, like, just shrugs and is like, deal with it.
Mm-hmm. And you never get any straight answers from people that worked on it either, because they're all constantly disagreeing about, what the facts of the production were.
Or they're all 6 feet under by now, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Yikes.
Zoink, Scoob.
I also find that there's basically two kinds of fans of the series too. There's those who prefer to look at kind of the message and the allegorical elements, and then there's those who focus on like the minutia of, I guess, if it was a real plot in a real world, trying to figure out why he resigned and where the village is and specifics like that. And
yeah, that makes sense.
I'm more so on.
I mean, you can either really get into it, or you can just be like, well, that was pretty cool, and I have some thoughts, but I'm not going to sit here and try and use my sextant to figure out where the village is.
Yeah, so I didn't have anything else for production, so maybe we can just jump right into it, I guess.
Recap time. Sure.
This episode is pretty light on, like, actual, the actual like beat to beat plot, especially for the first half.
Yeah. Well, it's light on dialogue anyway.
Yeah.
The first, this episode basically is Wall-E, but for those who like to have their mind just destroyed, like number 6. I mean, think about it though. The first 45 minutes of Wall-E are completely silent, and then Wall-E escapes the planet, and then he has some wacky adventures, and then he comes back at the end of the movie, and so I mean. Confirmed, the prisoner is Wall-E. You heard it here first, folks.
All the other humans are fat.
And number 6 just arrives in England and everyone's fat. Weighs 5 times as much as they did when he left, and he's like, what happened here?
So the episode begins with number 6 trying to do a bunch of things, like turn on the shower and turn on his radio and turn on his stove. And he can't do any of them. So he goes outside and sees that nobody's in the village except him.
Yep.
And the cat.
Yep.
Does the cat have a name?
Probably not.
Maybe you'll find out next week.
Stunned silence from the co-hosts.
Stunned silence from the people who watch the show.
The cat's name is...
I've never thought to ask that question before.
The cat's name is number 1.
The cat is number 1. You spoiled my who is number 1 for the week. No.
Well, number 6 quickly realizes that he's the only one in town, so he quickly puts his genius plan to escape in motion.
Mm-hmm.
And by genius, you mean he just reuses the same plan he used in what was the
Chimes of Big Ben
episode? No.
Or did he reuse this plan in that episode?
Well, no.
Or are they just completely separate events? Because the time loop resets.
Well, here's the difference between this episode and Chimes of Big Ben. In Chimes of Big Ben, we had stock footage of the tree falling, and this time we actually see it.
Well, not only that, we have, in a direct contradiction to Chimes of Big Ben, number 6 finds an actual axe to use in this episode, even though in Chimes, number 2 was like, yeah, we don't allow weapons, and I guess I'll look the other way for this rock you taped to this stick to use as an axe. But in this episode, number 2 just number 6, pulls out an axe from God knows where, and it's just
he got it.
Uses that to cut the tree down.
He got it in the Green Dome. He just pressed a button, and the floor opened up, and an axe came up. You got it.
Yes, right. This
Number 2
village that has a strict no weapons policy just keeps an axe in the basement.
Well, I mean, it's a no weapons for prisoners policy, but I mean, 1 squirt you're paralyzed, 2 squirts you're dead.
But who's a prisoner and who's not?
You haven't gotten to that one yet.
I mean, in Free Fall, he runs on the platform of trying to find out who are prisoners and who are guards.
True.
Essentially.
True.
And the twist is that everyone's a prisoner and a guard at the same time. That actually wasn't the twist of that episode.
But it's kind of it's there's a hint of truth to that, throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean that's the thought that I've kind of gravitated towards.
I think it's a mix. I think some people have always worked village. I think some people have been turned. I think some are actual prisoners, and some of the people who live in the village almost seem like that they've basically grown up there. Especially some of the maid staff. I feel like I can't remember. I feel like there was a character in particular who said something about how she'd always lived in the village.
Huh. Yeah, I never picked up on that. Wow.
Keep your eyes peeled. Peel your eyes.
Not your ears.
Peel off my eyelids so that I can't miss a single second of the prisoner.
That's yesterday I read about one of Daniel Day-Lewis's roles was a guy who had a fake eye, and so he had a glass prosthetic placed over his eye and then he learned to like tap the prosthetic with the edge of a knife without blinking like, for the role. And I was like, I don't think I would ever be able to do that. Thanks.
Can you even say you've watched The Prisoner if you've blinked during the episodes?
We had this exact same conversation on Greeks Bearing Gifts.
Exactly.
Keon, no need to repeat.
Check out Trust Your Doctor, a Doctor Who podcast for that.
We should really change the title of that to Trust Your Doctor, a quote Doctor Who unquote podcast.
I like how they got the same chop down tree music for the sequence as from Chimes of Big Ben. It's like Jungle Man theme.
If you're gonna have leaf motifs, you need one for tree cutting. You need a theme that appears every time someone cuts down a tree. That's just good composing strategy.
That's right, and that's what they did. Yeah, I like the way he pours all that oil on the ground from those barrels to make his raft.
His raft looks a lot better than the one they constructed in Chimes of Big Ben.
Yeah, that thing looks legit. It's like I wonder where they how they actually filmed the water scenes. Like, was he actually out at sea somewhere on that thing? I wonder where they did that.
I mean, if it's like any movie made during this period, it's just on a tank in the back lot.
They could have actually done it at Port Marion.
Yeah, they
just
could have
him out in not open water, but like just point the camera away from the land and pretend he's out at sea.
I don't know, but I'm going to say I doubt it, simply because the currents would be too unpredictable filming at sea like that, and it's like kind of a liability to put your actor on a boat that you made on the open sea. There would be lawyers like heavily advising / forcing you not to do that.
That is an excellent point, Dylan, and I think that should also be considered when thinking about whether this is a village plan or not, considering number 6's priority as a prisoner.
Well,
I wonder why he leaves an IOU note for this door. Like, if it were me getting away, I'd be like, F you guys, I'm taking all this stuff and I'm paying for it.
I know there is like a little inkling of like, he probably thinks his plan isn't going to work and he might come back. So he's like, might as well just leave this IOU just in case, you know?
So I don't get in trouble later.
I know you talk about like other people submitting to the village and being prisoners who might as well be guards because they've completely submitted. Number 6, kind of in that boat, my friend. Even though you're getting into this boat to leave, you're kind of in that one too.
Oh, number 6. You absolute madman.
Yeah, I mean, one of the sites that we consult every week for this podcast, Midnight Only, one of the things they had to say about this episode is like both the viewer and number 6 should know within the first 5 minutes that this plan isn't going to work.
What? Why? But it does work.
They had like a full paragraph about that, but the gist of it was like, if you wake up in the village, in a place like the village, and everyone is missing, and the opportunity to escape seems too good to be true, then it probably is.
Except he does.
Hey, I mean, maybe he thought that they were invaded and everyone had to leave. I don't know. There are plenty of explanations as to why everybody may have left, and his plan might work.
They were all abducted.
Maybe for some reason the village was evacuated and they just somehow missed him. Well, I guess we'll just have to see in the future whether the village ever gets evacuated. Or not.
Yeah, I'm kind of impressed at the like logistical Goliath that had to take place for everybody to get out of the village overnight without number 6 noticing anything happening during the night. Like that's the most impressive part of this whole thing.
We don't even know if they got out. Like, I mean, there's no one there. There's no one there
true.
visibly, but like we just don't even know what the hell that even is all
Maybe
about.
they're invisible.
They're hiding in the nuclear fallout shelter.
They're just all like in a large closet somewhere, like hoping number 6 doesn't look in there.
No, see, if they were going to get everybody out without like waking him up or anything, all they got to do is shine that flashing light on his face and
The hypno lamp.
just stay.
As you
asleep
mean
the
the,
whole time.
Give him a nice hairdo.
I wonder what it was like for Patrick McGowan to lay in his bed with that light like flashing in his face over and over again.
Well,
To
I mean,
pretend to be
this was
asleep.
his choice, so he has no one to blame but himself.
Yeah.
Maybe he was inspired because he had such bad teeth. I realized this time around, like maybe he was inspired by like, you know, when you go to the dentist and they have that light that shines in your face.
Yes.
Maybe that was the inspiration behind it all. Maybe he went to the dentist and was like, man, I feel like a prisoner having to sit in this chair for half an hour. And then he came up with the prisoner.
Number 6 is a former dental assistant, confirmed.
Keon is assuming that number 6 or Patrick McGowan actually goes to the dentist. The state of his teeth might indicate otherwise.
Maybe the village dental service just sucks.
Maybe they don't have one.
Well, it is, Britain after all, so, rim shot.
I thought it was southwest of Portugal and Spain.
Keon out here just destroying the UK.
That was our plot all along, right? To watch these British shows, but take not so subtle digs at Britain throughout all of them.
That's okay. Patrick McGowan's not even British. He's American.
Yeah, technically, yeah. And actually lived out a lot of his days close to where we are.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
You guys should go stalk his grave.
Oh my god. Yeah, he actually.
Get your picture taken with him.
God.
You know, he moved to the States, from what I've heard, in large part to sort of get away from the public eye after he ended that show.
Yeah, I've read, I don't know how true it is, but I've read that like he totally bailed like right after Fallout aired. He was like, I'm not gonna, be subject to anything people might say or think about this episode. So peace.
Yeah.
Escape the country.
Yep. The funny thing is, his car, the Lotus 7, in the 90s, a company called Caterham, which took over production for that car, they made a special prisoner edition of the Caterham 7, and they gave one to Patrick McGowan. So that wouldn't
And he was
attract
like, wow,
attention at all.
thanks.
Him driving around California with a prisoner with a 7. I wonder how fast he sold that thing.
He probably just shoved it in his garage so it would appreciate in value for like 10 years, and then he sold it.
I tried to do some research earlier today to see if I could figure out what happened to the one they gave to him, but I can't find anything about it.
Damn. This is going to be like that guy who tracked down the camera of the last guy who was on the moon, who like he said he didn't bring it back with him, but then it turned out he did, and he found it in like a random museum in England. That's going to be like this, but for the prisoner, tracking down Patrick McGowan's prisoner mobile.
It'll be done one day. Probably.
Maybe you guys should do it. You
We
live
can make
over
it
there.
happen.
You can find out where he lived at, and you can be like climbing over the walls and stuff, and you can learn the truth.
So, yeah, number 6 is just like stealing stuff from the store.
Yeah.
He's taking spy pictures of the entire town on his nice little Canon rangefinder.
Yeah. Except for some
His
reason,
Canon Dial 3.
for some reason, he doesn't take any pictures of the inside. He just takes pictures of the parts that look normal.
I seem to remember that when he's presenting the images to the Colonel and Thorpe,
Yes.
he has pictures of the inside of at least the control rooms. So
Thorpe just says all you got is pictures of pictures taken from ground level of a holiday resort. They don't seem to make much of his pictures.
They're like, hey, that's Port Marion. He's like, wait, what?
hey, that's in Wales.
Yeah, so he loads up his boat, and he's about to set sail, and he hears a familiar sound, the shatter of a little teacup.
The sound of a cat resigning.
Yeah.
And then he sets sail. And then so the first thing we see is number 6 shaving.
Yeah.
And then
Got to maintain some standards, bro.
so we see him shaving, and then I guess he just gives up shaving like after day 1 because then he grows like some stubble for the rest of his journey. So I guess he just gave up on that.
Yep.
Yeah, if that was me, like by day 18, that beard would be down to my knees.
Are you good at growing beards?
We slowly see him kind of become more and more
Disheveled.
yeah, exactly.
His hair gets really curly. Like, is his hair like normally that curly? I don't think I've ever seen it that curly before. Must put a lot of product in there or something.
Either.
Yeah, it does look like his usual like style is like slicked back, so it's probably how it is normally, I guess.
Yeah.
But then he passes out and, wakes up to the delight of some people just robbing him blind and tossing him in the water.
Z Germans.
And then I was like, oh, number 6 is just dead. They just chucked him in the ocean and he drowned.
Yeah, they just kill him halfway through the show. How do you like that?
Indeed.
I was surprised, but I was like, all right, Patrick, I'll see, you madman, I'll see what you're going to do here. I'll pick up what you're throwing down.
Uh-huh.
Apparently what he's throwing down is a plan to gain control of their boat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which he does by sneaking into the lower decks and pretending to start a fire actually starting a fire for a second.
Yeah.
He's got like oil and paper
rags.
in a pan, and he just lights it and it instantly just goes up like in flames.
I actually forgot about this entire sequence. I thought when he first started, doing what he was doing, I thought he was gonna like make some Molotov cocktails or something and just set fire to the boat itself. But no. He also finds out during this that these guys are gun smugglers because they have an entire crate full of guns.
Mm-hmm. German guns. Could you guys make out
German guns like better?
Oh, probably. They're German.
Yeah.
Could you guys make out any of the radio chatter? I always try to figure out what I hear on the radio, but I can't tell if it's just garbled or if it's just not English or what's going on there.
Nah, I couldn't make anything out.
Yeah, I couldn't get anything.
I didn't
like
even
all
know
his-
the. Yeah, go
You
ahead.
first.
Okay, yeah, I didn't even pick up that they were speaking German until I read it after the fact. I thought it was just like some made language. Yeah,
I mean,
Like, like, I think the Romanies were speaking made up language.
yeah,
The Gypsies.
pretty sure they were because the actors made no effort to like make it sound real. Yeah, exactly.
wow. Were you in this episode, Sergeant Draino?
Like number 2, number what's her face from Free For All. Slooch.
Yeah,
What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I like how all the stuff that number 6 does in this episode, with the raft and the compass and his plan to take over the boat. It all feels very plausible to me, and I like that. It's not particularly like flashy, but it's functional. It's the sort of plans. It's the same sort of type of actions you would see in a Danger Man episode where Drake is he's just kind of got to improvise with what he's got available, which normally isn't very much. So he just kind of makes do with what's laying around.
yeah. This is definitely one of the most down to earth episodes, at least until the end, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, it has that sort of, I guess, rationality to it, and you kind of see his plan unfold. It's done really well because you see his plan unfold, and you can even kind of get his thought process a little bit throughout. Even with no dialogue, him building the raft,
Yeah.
and then what he does to distract the 2 smugglers so we can knock them out. Yeah.
No, it was great illustration of show don't tell. It was a very good show don't tell episode.
So he gains control of the boat and he sees sort of a lighthouse off in the distance, so he goes towards it. But the 2 guys break free somehow and they start attacking him.
There's a secret exit to the room they're in that number 6 didn't know about through the cabinet, apparently. I don't know why the back wall of the cabinet is like not just the metal hull of the boat or the metal walls of the boat. Like the back wall of the cabinet is just the wood and then that just separates that room from the next, so they just kick it out and escape that way.
Well, I mean, walls in boats between rooms are usually pretty thin. Doesn't particularly surprise me. It is kind
Just
of
surprised me that I guess the wall behind the cabinet was like constructed of wood and not the metal that the rest of the wall was constructed of.
Yeah.
Out of
Yeah,
like they
that is kinda
intentionally
weird.
built the secret exit into this room.
Well, they are.
It's like if these I mean it seems like if it's just where the one cabinet backs up to the other and that's just the wall there, then why don't they just kick right through the wall? Why are they going through the cabinet?
Yeah, exactly.
Good point. What did you start to say, Keon?
Oh yeah, so Dylan and I have talked about how The Prisoner kind of feels like a reality show at times, where you're just watching this guy suffer. But like, there's a moment of that here too, where like one of the guys goes into a little drawer and pulls out a gun. But there's a moment, I don't know if you guys noticed it, but he pulls out the gun and there's a little he turns it towards the camera so you can see it, and pauses on the gun for a second. I don't know. I love that. He just it's like he's showing you yes, I have this gun. Here we go.
I like the way he has to rummage around in the drawer a little bit before he gets it.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like an actual drawer full of crap. It doesn't seem like a drawer set up in a scene to have a gun in it, It seems like a real situation where he just has this gun in this drawer, and he remembers it's there, and so he runs to the drawer, and he has to rummage around and get it out of there.
Yeah, now that you mention that, that's like that contrasts very highly with the village, which is all very like planned out, everything in its place, type stuff. Even in the first episode when number 6 goes to the store, what type of map would you like? Color,
Yeah.
black and white, and they both have their little cabinets or whatever type thing.
Yeah. This is a very messy boat. Feels lived in.
Well, they're also smugglers, so it doesn't seem like they exactly keep everything neat and tidy.
They start shooting.
Well, they're Germans. They should. But yeah, they
Wow.
shoot. We get that cool spy theme again where he's doing fisticuffs with them and stuff. Love that spy theme.
Yeah,
Spy
I'll
confirmed.
have to find out what that's called, because again, the Prisoner soundtracks are on YouTube with the episode, or not the episode titles, the names of the songs listed. So I'll try and figure out what that theme is called.
Do you guys have a
Honestly,
favorite
still
piece
shocked you
of
found it.
was that Dylan?
I said I'm honestly still shocked that Keon found the Prisoner soundtrack on YouTube.
Same. I am as well. I didn't think that YouTubing Prisoner soundtrack would turn up anything.
YouTubing.
YouTubing.
I actually have the Prisoner soundtrack on CD, commercially released on CD. It's like 2 volumes, I think. That's probably where the YouTube tracks came from. Somebody uploaded it from their CDs. Yeah. But I haven't messed with it in a while, so I guess I could go look it up, but nah. Do you guys have a favorite piece of music yet?
Yeah, it's that one.
There is definitely some repetition of music. There's some common themes that you hear almost every episode for, certain things.
There's one, I don't know if we've heard it yet actually, but there's one like almost Pink Panther-ish like type theme where he's sneaking around.
Ding 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 ding.
Yeah.
That's probably the one.
I don't
I don't know what it's called.
I don't know if we've heard it yet, honestly.
I don't recognize it, so either I didn't catch it when it happened, or we haven't heard it yet. Seen it? What the hell?
Can't remember.
So, once the gunrunners take back control of the boat, number 6 just kind of dives off the edge to swim to shore, since he sees it's like right there, and he's like, well, I guess I could swim that distance. And he does, but not before passing out on the beach at the end.
Well, wait a minute. Wait. He swims the distance. Yeah, he does swim the distance before passing out. You said not
Yes.
before.
Whoops.
If he
Yeah, I
passed-
got that backwards.
This would be a shorter episode if he passed out before swimming the
I
distance.
still think they should have just killed number 6 off in the middle of this, just had him drown, just like, I can't swim. Oh no.
And then he just wakes up in his bed the next day.
Yeah, exactly. You gonna try escape now, number 6? So he wakes up and he goes investigating to find out where he is, and he finds a group of Romani people who are, like we said before, just speaking made up language.
Which preserves the mystery.
Yikes.
How dare you say the Romany language is made up?
Well, it
You
for
said it,
now
not me.
preserves the mystery of like what is even going on, because number 6 has no idea where he is. We have no idea where he is.
True.
We kind of get it because you can kind of,
Yeah.
when he goes and when he finds the road, you can see that they're English cops, and you can kind of hear English chatter, I think, in that scene.
Yeah.
So you kind of get it there.
Yeah, that's the big one when the Bobby pops into view.
Yeah.
Boing.
So they give him some food. to sustain him, since I guess he's been starving.
Dudika.
He's like been eating that village spam. Village brand spam.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive that he like did all that on the boat, like just on pure adrenaline, considering he was like close to death when they found him.
Considering he only slept for 4 hours a day, like maybe that was the reason why he was close to death. Like, come on, dude.
I do that, you know. I only sleep
Do
for
you
4
feel
hours
like
a
you're
day.
close to death?
Sometimes,
on a constant
yeah.
daily basis. Point proven.
I also kind of don't believe him when he says, like, I slept 4 hours out of every 24. I kind of don't believe that. I don't know. I feel like number 6 is the type of guy to embellish.
I mean, if he wants to find out where the village is, though, he has no incentive to embellish because it'll throw all the distances off.
But still, number 6 is, you know, I swear he's the type of guy who would do it anyway, just to look good.
I would like to see somebody do the math on how much water he would need to haul to survive 25 days at sea.
Probably a lot. Unless he's, like, purifying ocean water.
Drinking his own pee.
Yeah, I remember
during his journey.
In Life of Pi, there was he like concocted a system to purify the ocean water.
I thought that was Waterworld.
Which is pretty cool. I haven't seen Waterworld, actually.
You didn't miss much.
So he hops in the back of a truck because I guess he just needs to sleep, and that's the best place to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And when he wakes up, he is in London. When he wakes up, he's back in the village. They drive him back.
Wouldn't it be something if when
My note is that he wakes up in Cardiff.
Cardiff? Really? What? Does he?
Because they always use Cardiff to stand in for London
Is that
on
Cardiff?
Doctor Who. So I was like, oh, look, it's Cardiff.
Like, is that Cardiff, or are you just joking?
No, I'm just joking.
Oh, okay.
It's definitely, probably, actually London.
Yeah. Well, I think they showed a bunch of landmarks just to say, "Yup, definitely London. These are things you should recognize," even though I do not.
All the establishing shots have been cut to, like, Toronto. Stands in for every big city ever.
What if when he jumped out of that truck in the middle of traffic, he just got run over and killed? How would that be?
Well, again, that it would have been hilarious for them to just kill off number 6 in the middle of this episode.
What would the rest of the show be about? Number 2, like in village planning meetings.
Yeah.
the rest,
Or every episode just takes place before this one.
I guess.
the rest
Yeah.
of the show would be about Charles Curtis. Flapjack Charlie.
There's a moment in this episode that makes you think this is a prequel to the entire show, and we're almost there.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean when the car drives up behind him?
Yeah, and when he goes to his little underground like office place or whatever, and you're like, oh my god, like, is this him going to resign?
Yeah, they literally just ripped that footage straight from the title sequence. It's kind of hilarious.
Not all of it. A few shots they do, but not all of it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. They didn't rip the shot where the teacup breaks because they couldn't have him slamming his fist on the table. Okay.
Right.
Some of the driving shots are not ripped from the intro sequence as well, because he's wearing what
His
Mrs.
white
Butterworth
shirt
gave him.
thing, yeah.
And
Exactly.
not what he's wearing in the intro. Yeah.
Yeah. And his curly hair is flapping around.
Well, so he knocks on the door to his house, which for the first time I noticed his number, his house number is number 1.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
then
someone
he's-
And the maid answers.
And then he says something sexist to the maid.
Yeah, he's like, is your master in? And she's like, the mistress is out. And he's like, oh.
Fine then. I didn't
If you say
really
so.
want to see her anyway. But then he notices his car pull up,
Yep.
and he meets Mrs. Butterworth.
Yeah. Who was like,
Honestly, when I heard her name, I laughed. I was like, really? That was the name you went with? Mrs. Butterworth? Really?
maybe this was before they came out with, the syrup.
That's a good question. Let's investigate. Mrs. Butterworth syrup. Punching it into Google.
When was it invented?
Introduced in 1961.
Hey, oh, no.
We're on to you, Magooin. Magooin, we're on to you.
Maybe that's just another indication of, like, everything is not as it seems. Her name is the name of, like, a product. I didn't even know. What is Mrs. Butterworth? Is
What?
a syrup? I didn't know that.
It's a syrup who's changing their name, who's changing the
It's one that's
the
shaped like
branding because
lady.
it's racist.
Oh.
Wait, what? Racist.
Yeah, they're changing they're changing the shape of the bottle anyway because it like plays into a racist stereotype.
It does? Doesn't it just look like a lady?
It's based on a stereotype of an elderly black
British
woman.
lady? Oh. Thought you were going to say elderly British lady.
So I thought they were changing their name too, but I don't remember. Changing the name of the brand anyway, but I don't remember.
Lame. So Mrs. Butterworth
So yeah, anyway,
is-
Mrs. Butterworth is like, yeah, I live here now. I own this house. And he's like, well, he being number 6 is like, I used to own this house once upon a time.
Did any of you get the impression that she was like undressing him with her eyes constantly?
No, but I guess the next time I watch it, I will.
She's like, okay. Do come in. Sandwich.
Would you like a sandwich? I mean, he gets like
No, eat this whole
these
fruitcake.
tiny. He gets tiny tea sandwiches and he eats
Yeah,
all
yeah.
of them, and then he gets a fruitcake and he eats all of it.
Yeah. Best fruitcake he ever had.
I got the impression he's never had fruitcake before that.
I like the way she says sandwich, like it's 2 words. Sandwich.
Would you like some sandwiches freshly made and good for you? She just brings him a plate of sand.
She says she's a very good cook, so she made him sandwiches. Does that count as cooking?
But yeah, he then convinces her that he used to live there. Although apparently she didn't need any convincing to begin with, because she believed him to begin with, which he isn't used to.
Yes. I love the scene where
He's like,
she leaves him alone for a minute, and he's kind of wandering around looking at stuff. I like that scene. Good little
Yeah,
musical
his
detail.
house in the village is supposed to be a replica of his actual house, but it's like not really.
Well, one room is a replica of a room, because you remember halfway through Arrival, one of the walls just retracts into the ceiling, and then you see the rest of the place.
Yeah, and even that, like, when you get the full, like, layout of the place, once that wall opens up, it doesn't really look the same, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's
I don't
not
know.
supposed to. It's
Right.
not supposed to.
Even that kind of plays into, so we mentioned this a couple weeks ago, I think, how Patrick Guin has talked about his inspiration behind The Prisoner, and he's been like, yeah, technology and just I don't think he says technology. He just says progress, as vague a term as that is like basically the worst thing in the world. So we even get kind of that where like the village houses are more of an open plan, which is a newer style, versus his actual house, which is the rooms are closed off, which is sort of an older style there.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I don't think I'd ever noticed that before. Yeah, that's right.
I'll see if I can find that interview because we keep mentioning it. Although he might spoil some stuff in it. I forget. But yeah, it's basically just him.
Well, I mean, it's harder and harder to avoid spoilers. Like the IMDb credit this week spoiled that Thorpe comes back as number 2.
Yeah.
The actor who plays Thorpe comes back as a number 2, I guess I should say. I guess we'll see if he's the same character or not.
That is probably open to interpretation.
Heck yeah.
I think it was...
I like to think.
Like everything else in the show.
I think Midnight Only said that it was a different character, and they were very sure of that, but like had a very flimsy explanation for why they were sure of it.
Exactly.
Pop Apostle insists that it is the same character.
Yeah.
So...
To me, it's more entertaining to think of them as the same character.
Yeah, same.
I feel like that adds something. Which, of course, places this episode before that one.
It is one of the most entertaining aspects of the show this time around for me has been like realizing that some of these people are people number 6 knew in like his previous life and are now like making his life a living hell.
Yeah. Well, Thorpe does not know number 6. Colonel James knows him, but Thorpe doesn't because at the end when he flies off, he's like, "Interesting fellow, who is he?" And it's James who tells him that he's an old friend who never gives up. But I'm jumping slightly ahead.
Yeah, so I think what happens next is that number 6 basically he gets fed, we explained that, and he gets clothed.
Yep.
And he gets given his car. And then
you look at all the records, and there's no information about who had the place before Mrs. Butterworth. But apparently, when she pulls out these records, it is her name that's on the records. So it's not like she gave him a fake name and there was actually records in the place that showed previous lease owner, and it had Mrs. Butterworth down there as that person.
Unless the records are faked too. She might not even...
Well, yeah.
Yeah, she might not be Mrs. Butterworth given what we know at the end. Or what we find out at the end, rather. Didn't even realize that until now. But, like, yeah, I don't know. Number 6 drives off into the intro sequence. Oh, we should also mention that he gives her his name, Peter Smith.
Yeah, and there's something else that's worth mentioning too, which is to me a big mystery, and it's something where the episode differs from the script. And as far as I know, there's never been any explanation for this. And when he is about to leave, he tells her he has to make 2 important stops, one in the country and one in town. And we only see the one in town.
Yeah.
So I wonder what they were thinking when they wrote that dialogue. Like, was there going to be another scene where he was going to do something? I really wonder what that other stop was going to be.
The only changes, like, in the script that I could find were pretty minor. And weren't in this scene, so yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, I no idea. That's interesting, though.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's just a throwaway line that they threw in there because they're like, oh man, this will drive people wild with speculation.
People in 2020 will watch this and it'll drive them nuts.
Yeah.
Anyway, he drives off into the intro sequence. This was the moment, I can't remember what my thought was when I first watched this episode, but I'd like to think now that 2016 me went, oh my god, is this a prequel to everything? Is he about to go resign? Like, is this show just like a total loop? Right? Like, maybe this one is the last chronological one. He goes and he resigns, and he gets taken to the village, and then all this stuff happens before this, but also after it.
The twist is that he resigned from the village.
Yeah. That's why he broke that cup. Or rather, his cat did, I guess. His cat broke the cup.
But he goes into the little bunker area, and he sees George Markstein. But there's
He says,
another...
"You're fired!" And George Markstein hands him his letter of resignation.
There's another interesting parallel between this scene that we get every single episode because it's in the intro and the village, which is that, you know, in the village surveillance room, there are maps of the world just on the walls, as there are like here in this room. Unfortunately, George Markstein doesn't get any dialogue here. He just kind of looks oddly into the camera.
Yeah.
He looks skeptically at number 6. So number 6 goes in. I guess he gives them the role of undeveloped film, and they just like develop it in the 20 minutes. I guess number 6 just sits there waiting for like 20 minutes while they develop the film.
Maybe that was the country appointment he had to make. He had to go out into the country, develop the film, and come back.
Why not? Somebody's got to develop these like top secret film roles.
Right, he had to do it out in the middle of nowhere, so nobody could so he would know that the dark room didn't have any, you know, secret surveillance systems installed or anything like that. So he went out in the middle of nowhere, set up a dark room in a stone house, developed the film,
Built with a stone axe,
and came back.
Could be.
I'm gonna go with it. There's nothing proving it wrong, so it's right.
Push X to doubt.
Speaking of doubt, the people that number 6 shows this to, which are James and some other guy whose name is... He has a title, but I don't remember what it is or something.
It's the Colonel.
Yeah, they don't. They highly doubt.
The Colonel is James.
You're talking about
the...
Oh, it's Colonel James and Thorpe.
Yeah, Colonel James Thorpe. You got an admiral dude, and you got a group captain dude that come in later to help him figure out where things are.
Yeah, the admiral and the group captain are there to plot some stuff on the map.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they're skeptical about the village at first, but eventually they're like, all right, we'll entertain you.
Well, because they check out his story, and they're able to confirm that he met the Romani people, and he was in the back of the truck, and Mrs. Butterworth vouches that he showed up there. So they weren't able to check on the German gun runners because, understandably, they fled the country. But
did you guys get the impression that Thorpe was sort of? It's like James was good cop, Thorpe was bad cop. Thorpe seemed to be like more doubting than James.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I mean, Thorpe is the one who like calls number 6 out. He's like, look at it from our perspective. You resigned, you vanished for months, and now you show up here with this story about a mysterious village holding people hostage. Like,
You take a vacation for months, go to Port Marion, and you don't invite us? Come on, man.
Thorpe does say something like he would like to take a fortnight's rest in Port Marion because he's like, looks like a nice vacation spot.
They say it has a Mediterranean look, which is true. Port Merion was actually constructed with the idea in mind that it would look like an Italian village.
Mm-hmm.
So even multiple layers of like the facade there too. You know, it's in real life, and you know, in the village they're looking at this place that was supposed to look Italian, and they're like, "Hey, that looks a little Italian," as if it wasn't or something. You know.
Mm. I found it interesting that when they're checking out his story, Thorpe mentions the gypsies, and number 6 corrects him and says Romanese. Not sure what to make of that.
Fighting
like,
for...
Yeah, there you go. Didn't want them generalized or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, gypsy is technically a slur, I guess, because it's from Egyptians when they're not actually Egyptian at all. So, yeah, I don't know.
Oh, I also like the bit where he's asking about the police roadblock, and they say, nothing to do with you. It was an escaped convict. And, of course, it could be said that he is an escaped prisoner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. So they call in some Navy peeps to figure out where the village is, and they pinpoint it. They get like a general location. It's off the coast of Spain and Portugal and Morocco.
Yep. I like the way when they're asking him about, you know, like, when did you sleep? Do you accept this, that, and the other? Blah, blah, blah. It almost seems like they're, at the same time that they're trying to get these details, they're also, I got the impression, sort of quizzing him to see if his story checks out again. If the math works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, they're just marking this map up to check the math, and I'm like, well, really hope you have more math.
I'm sure they don't. You know, large government organization, they probably just have this one. So I'm curious, Dylan, what do you think? Did you think before that we would ever find out the location of the village? Are you surprised that we now know where it is?
I don't think we know where it is.
Well, you don't think? Why not?
I mean, all indication points to number 6 not being a pilot, so that pilot could have just taken him anywhere and been like, yep, Morocco, yeah, definitely.
Number 6 does look like he has a pretty good grasp on where they are, though, because he's the one giving directions, like, you know, turn however many degrees here, this way, go over there. So.
Yep. Plus, I mean, it was just him doing the whole journey from the village to London, and he had the compass, so he knows what direction he went. He knows how many days he was at sea.
I mean, a compass that he made, which doesn't necessarily speak to its accuracy, and a sextant he had to make, again, not speaking to its accuracy.
Did he make a sextant? I don't remember a sextant in this episode.
There's like a sextant-looking object on the boat. He never mentions it out loud, but it's kind of sitting there when he's getting robbed. You can see it's made of like a ruler and like a tin can.
Because he even says in the meeting with his dudes that the village doesn't issue sextants. So
yeah, it's a good thing they cut that out of Chimes, that random scene of him using that Greek
exactly
object out of Chimes of Big Ben. Otherwise, that would have caused some continuity errors.
Yep. Which, of course, is why Chimes has to precede this one, because if this one happened first, he would not have been fooled by the location of the village in Chimes of Big Ben.
I don't know. I'm still skeptical that it's in Morocco, or allegedly Morocco.
Might be an island.
Could be an island.
Yeah,
really big island.
It wasn't actually in Morocco or Spain or Portugal. It was like an island off the coast, is what they said.
Possibly
an island. Yeah, I mean, it'd be a pretty damn big island given that aerial shot of the village we get.
Well, Britain is an island, so like technically,
There you go.
So even that's it's pretty big. Technically, Australia is an island as well.
Okay, I mean, technically every continent is an island.
Not really. Only Australia is. If you
I mean,
want- if you want-
every continent is just land surrounded by water. So, like, where's the distinction that stops it from being an island?
Yeah, but like if you want to go strictly by the definition, which you shouldn't, it's prescriptivist, but sure, let's go along with it. Every continent except Australia is connected to another continent, so that's why they're not technically islands. But whatever.
But that just really says that the definition of continent is the one that's screwbally and not the definition of island necessarily.
Yeah, enough of your crypto-fascist continent propaganda.
What?
Bring Pangea back. Make Earth great again.
Damn it, you beat me to it!
Anyway, the pilot turns around, cranes his neck back, and says,
Well, you're getting ahead of yourself, aren't you?
"Oh
we
yeah,
haven't even described that he gets in the plane to go look for the
Yeah.
the village,
village. Jesus,
Village
town."
Jesus.
the village. Here's a fun fact for you: the plane he gets into is a Gloucester Meteor, which was the only jet-powered plane to see service on the Allied side during World War II.
Oh, wow. So when was the last, when was that plane no longer in service? That could help place this as well.
I think it was like still even in service with like the Belgian Air Force as late as like 2008. That thing was built to last.
Okay, but it's the RAF that's taking them out. So when was the RAF last using it?
I don't actually.
You fail, Kian! I mean, Dylan.
I don't actually know.
It does look like. So when he gets back in London and he asks Mrs. Butterworth what the date is, she tells him that it's Saturday, March the 18th. And that would tally with 1967, which might even be when the episode was filmed. Not sure.
I think based on the websites I was looking at, that doesn't track with the Wednesday, February the 17th from Schizoid Man,
Yeah, Schizoid
which
Man
has
is
to be
off.
a 69.
Yeah, Schizoid Man, I think the Wednesday in Schizoid Man would track as something like either 65 or 71 or something. That one, the dates in that one don't work. The dates in this one could work, though.
The Gloucester Meteor apparently served the RAF until the 80s.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I told you they built those things to last.
I guess so.
Kind of like how the U.S. Air Force still flies B-52s that were built in the 50s and plan to fly them through 2050.
Wow. Until they fall down.
Pretty much. Apparently those things are built built to never be destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
Multiple other bombers have come and gone in the U.S. Air Force fleet, but the B-52 remains.
Love Shack, baby.
Wow, you didn't go for the superior B-52 song, Rome.
For any of the listeners who have no idea what is being talked about right now, same.
Yeah, doesn't listen to music.
Keon's the audience surrogate for this part of the episode.
He's supposed to be the one that's more familiar with the prisoner.
Apparently he's not familiar with the B-52, Keon. Come on.
Oh, my goodness.
You're gonna let a foreigner know more about your own Air Force than you? That's a security violation. Come on, Keon.
Look, when the FBI starts knocking at my door, I guess I won't be ready. I don't know.
Probably not.
I'll just knock back. You know, when I get that FBI open up, I'll just be like, you open up, and knock back.
And then they will.
And then they will. They'll kick the door in and be like, "You told us to open up." So yeah, he gets in this plane. He flies out. They're scanning the coastline.
Oh, you're getting a little. Well, maybe not. Okay, continue.
What have I skipped?
He finds the village, surprisingly. Like, you go into this thinking, like, this is never going to work. Like, they're going to go on this wild goose chase. It's not going to be there. And then 2 seconds later, he's like, oh, there it is.
Yep.
And then, in this hilarious turn of events, the pilot turns to him and goes, "Be seeing you," and ejects him out of the plane.
Yep. And who is the pilot?
The milkman?
Yeah.
Was it? I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Yes. So there was a switch. You see the group captain getting ready to fly him out in the jet, and the milkman shows up and takes his place.
Yeah, I've never realized that. Wow.
Wow. Yes, Pint-a-Man. Pint-a-Man. Pint-a-Man took number 6 back to the village.
Yeah. Wow.
Damn.
Just goes to show you how far they've
Guy
infiltrated.
got bamboozled.
Well, I guess not that far, or they simply would have just gone ahead and, assigned a pilot to the mission that would take him back there instead of sending in a milkman to take that dude out and fly him out instead.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. So he goes back into his house, and all the stuff that he was trying to do at the beginning works. And he goes outside, and the village is having a little parade, or he looks outside, and the village is having like a little parade. And then who should come in to his humble abode but Mrs. Butterworth, holding a birthday cake?
Yes.
I think that happens in the other order. I think she comes in with the cake first, and then he sees the parade outside.
True. You failed,
Right,
Keon.
I quit.
Keon's like, "I resign."
And she goes, "Many happy returns."
Yes. While undressing him with her eyes.
Apparently in the original script she was going to ask why he resigned, but they cut that out, and I think it works better with the "Many happy returns."
Yep.
Because this is a
Agreed.
major... Yeah, go ahead,
And-
Sergeant Draino.
Oh, I was just going to point out. No, you first. You first. I stopped you. I stopped
Well,
you in the middle of your thought. This is a major.
It's a major loss for number 6, so I'm kind of jumping the gun on that segment, but hey.
So apparently this all happens, him going back. I mean, they talk about him sweeping, again tomorrow and again tomorrow. Well, apparently, they just flew him right back there and dropped him in that same day. He's still wearing the same clothes that Miss Butterworth gave him. And also, when Mrs. Butterworth walks in, she is wearing the same clothes that she was wearing when they send the investigators out to check on his story. So they've apparently flown her out to the village during that same day too, and she's got a black badge, and I think she's the only number 2 with a black badge.
I think so, yeah.
Ye-
I think that's what
yeah,
Anne
that's what I
Rackdown
read.
pointed out. Yeah, this episode does do some like weird stuff with time. I mean, because even at the end here, like, what is this? Like, there is no answer, because it's as if he comes back to like, and by his calculations and by everything else in the episode, it's been literal weeks since he left. Yet when he comes back, it's almost as if no time has passed at all.
Well, it's still his birthday,
Yeah.
so time has passed. Yeah, like it wasn't his birthday when he left, and when he gets back, it's his birthday. It seems like things in the village are suddenly activated again, but now it's his birthday. It's still March the 19th, whereas when he left, it was not. So I would say time's definitely passed. I guess the main question is whether or not they really planned all this, or did somebody screw up and this is all damage control.
What you mean, like
And
they
I
didn't
vote for
plan to
damage
just
control.
ditch
Do what?
the village? Is that what you're saying? Like they didn't plan to leave the village, so they're like, oh shoot, gotta make it look like this is the plan all along.
Well, we know that number 6 is this high value prisoner that, you know, we can't have any physical damage happening to him. He can't be put in any actual danger. And what he did in this episode was extremely dangerous. And it was definitely not under any kind of, you know, controlled circumstance. He almost got killed by the gun runners. He could have just collided. If they hadn't tried to rob him, he probably would have just died from exposure out there, right? After he passed out. So,
I mean, we know the village has tracking stations that cover that far out, though, so I'm sure they were like secretly watching over the tracking system, and if something was really going to go wrong, they would go out there and get him.
That's the boat I'm in, pun intended. I think this was all controlled, all planned, and that he actually never really even escaped.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so, because the at least James, maybe Thorpe might be a village agent, but it doesn't seem like James is, and it seems like it would be a massive security risk to let him get to somewhere where he could give, you know, even approximate location information for the village, and it seems like that's what happened. It also seems like, you know, okay, they think that they can predict what he's going to do, generally speaking, but you don't really know what he's going to do. I mean, what if he just, you know, got to the coast and then not gone back to his house, not gone to his superiors? What if he just decided to, you know, live on the side of the road or in the woods for a while? He could have just sat out for, you know, a month or more waiting for the heat to die down. I mean, to me, it's not realistic to think that they're that in control of things, especially considering the stuff he's able to pull off even in the village when he should be, you know, surveilled at all times or whatever. And I don't think we have any indication that they have some sort of magical scanning locator function that can detect things hundreds of miles out in the middle of the ocean. I don't think we've seen that. So I think he was left by accident. I think he got out, and I think everything else is damage control. I think Mrs. Butterworth was like, oh shit.
That's why.
Let me feed you a bunch of sandwiches and stuff. I'll be right back.
That's why she's so taken with.
Let me make.
That's why she's so taken. And when he's about to leave, she's like, no, don't leave.
Yeah. She's got to slow him down so they can get ready. Yeah, she's just the person they've assigned to sit in his place. And, you know, and so now we're going to be like, aha, we're going to act like this is all our idea. So let's fly her out and have her be number 2 for a little bit, just to make it seem like this was all according to plan. But I mean, the village doesn't really gain anything from any of this. And the potential loss that they face, losing number 6, you know, out at sea, losing confidential information about the village to people that aren't supposed to know about it. To me, those things don't add up as something that they would risk intentionally.
But I think they can still control everything outside the village. Like, we've clearly gotten indications that they're definitely some sort of extra governmental organization that has the ability to control those kind of things.
Their control room is like literally watching the entire world. Like, they have the entire world like under surveillance. But I don't know. To me, there's always been, and I think it's at its close to its strongest in this episode, at least. Like, this weird, uncomfortable feeling in this show of, like, this is all, like, some sort of candid camera, like, joke. Like, if he does something wrong, like, someone will just pop in from behind the camera and correct it or something like that. And, like, if he were to not go back to his house, which, you know, he obviously does, but if he were to just do something else, I feel like there would just be some sort of, I don't know, like, Truman Show-esque correction to that. That's just a feeling, a weird, uncanny feeling I get when watching this show. And that's why this episode kind of gives me horror vibes in a way. A lot of them do, actually. And the next one, actually, which is another Skene episode, Dance of the Dead, is like one of the strongest horror episodes in the series, I think. Or like one that does horror, or one that gets closest to horror.
Dance of the Dead is a very dark episode. We won't get into it too much, but I remember the first time I watched the series, I think Dance of the Dead was actually the only episode that initially I did not like because it was just too, I don't know, depressing or something. But, you know, since then I've gained an appreciation for it, but it's definitely a dark episode. I kind of think it should be episode 2, honestly.
Just throw you right in.
I would put it at number 2. Yeah.
There's a line in that episode that chills me to the bone, like few like moments in fiction have ever done. And I won't say what it is here because we're gonna watch it next week. But
Curses.
You'll find out next week, Dylan.
That's it. That's the line. Curses.
Exactly. It's Where Am I? From the intro sequence. No.
Who am I? What am I?
But yeah, that's Many Happy Returns. Another pun-based title, because obviously Many Happy Returns is something, I think mostly British people say this. I haven't really heard it too much, but like you say it on birthdays. And obviously number 6 is going to have many happy returns to the village.
Scare
many
quotes.
Happy returns.
Oh, did you guys recognize Mrs. Butterworth?
No.
Mrs. Butterworth is in number 6's manufactured dream sequence at the end of A, B, and C. She is the person who gives him the little doodah and tells him to bet on number 6, I think. So number 6 puts Butterworth in his dream.
Oh, that's very suspicious.
It doesn't have to be. It's that episode.
She undresses him with her eyes in that one too.
I didn't really have, much else to talk about for this one other than what we've already discussed. Personally.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything really else to discuss either, actually.
I like this episode a lot more this time around. I remember my first 2 watches of this episode, I was like, it's okay. But this time I really like it.
Cool.
It's okay.
It's okay.
I did enjoy it, actually. I enjoyed it. I enjoy the implication that they can control, like, even outside the village, so...
I enjoyed the implication that maybe he actually got away this time. It just didn't stick.
He just totally botched everything.
Get wrecked.
Yeah,
number 6,
that's a
get
good
wrecked.
question, actually. Like, if you were in number 6's shoes, would you even risk going back to your former employers who might be in on this whole thing?
Good
Not after
question.
this.
Especially since you already had the experience with Colonel J and Fotheringay the last time you tried to talk to some of your bosses. I probably wouldn't just drive in there. I would probably maybe hide somewhere and maybe make contact with somebody lower level that I felt like I could trust.
Yeah, that makes sense. I wouldn't go anywhere near the place. I wouldn't even go back because they know where his house is. I wouldn't go to that house. I wouldn't get near it. I wouldn't even, if I was number 6 and I woke up in that truck in London, I'd be like, get me the hell out of here.
Yep. You just go to the press or something.
Exactly. But yeah, number 6 is once again demonstrated how not very bright he is. It's true.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, yeah.
In some ways.
Continually makes the same mistakes over and over and over again.
And that's why it's
doesn't
so
learn
satisfying
anything.
to see over and over and over again his face slammed in by the bars.
So satisfying to just watch him get destroyed.
It is strange how you can have a series where the hero basically loses every week and it's somehow still compelling.
Everything I've heard about Danger Man indicates that that's the total opposite. I saw someone recently online talking about how Danger Man somehow pulls off, fitting an entire Bond movie into 25 minutes every single week.
That was probably me.
Oh, was that you in your email?
An email
Gotcha.
to you.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, I mean, I haven't watched Danger Man, obviously, but, yeah, seems like the total opposite of
So good.
of The Prisoner.
It's actually not. I would say most of the time Drake is successful in his missions, but sometimes he isn't. And that's kind of what helps make it interesting, too. Sometimes there's, just like in this show, there's no win scenarios. In fact, that episode I sent you, no spoilers.
Yeah, so I literally have nothing else before we jump into some of our segments here.
I have something from an earlier episode. We can cover that later if you want.
I mean, I'm okay with throwing it in here. I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
might as well.
It doesn't matter, I guess.
Free for all. The scene where the guys are sitting around Rover.
Yes, the praying to Rover scene.
Yes, the praying to Rover scene, also known as the Rover worshiper scene. I don't think that's what that actually is. The dudes who attack number 6 from that little group, I think in the credits they're credited as mechanic number 1 and mechanic number 2. So I think that those are more so people that are working on Rover. Rover is like a system that I guess requires some kind of maintenance. Kind of like when in Schizoid Man, when they say number 2 orders that Rover be deactivated immediately or something until they figure out what went wrong. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much it. Everybody, it seems like in historically everybody calls those Rover worshippers, but I think they're more like mechanics.
I like to think it's Rover worshipping because that's just funnier. It's funnier to imagine this weird cult of Rover worshippers who hide in the cave and they're like hiding their worship of Rover from everyone.
And they do it inside number 2's house.
Exactly. Yeah, good enough for me. Maybe they're both mechanics and worshippers.
Maybe.
Number 6 seems to worship his
nothing rules
car,
that out, so.
And he's the one who technically built it, so,
Every nut and bolt and cog.
So as we kind of hinted at before, whether this is a win or lose for number 6, win or loss, I should say, for number 6, is not really up for debate. It's a pretty heavy loss.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh.
He did get a birthday cake.
Yeah, true. And his stuff is working again. His radio is working. His shower is fixed.
Yeah.
So I take it back. It's a win.
Got to drive his car for a little bit. It's a mixed bag.
I take back everything I said. It's a total win.
The cake makes it all worth it. The cake is what we were here for to begin with, and the cake is what he got.
The cake is a lie.
I mean, luckily for him, the cake isn't a lie, so...
Well, we don't actually see him eat it. It could be like a fake cake.
Like the cake meme that was going around recently. Everything
Except
is cake.
cakes.
Except actual cakes.
I wonder if it was another fruit cake underneath that icing. You might have cut into that thing. It would have just been a big old fruit cake.
Can you imagine? I'd be so disappointed if that were the case.
With a filling of sandwiches.
Yeah, what if it's...
I'd be like, how could you do this to me?
A circular sandwich covered with frosting.
I can't believe you've done this. Absolutely devastating.
So, how many of Britain's 10 actors are in this week's episode?
I don't know how many of Britain's 10 actors are in this episode. I recorded 3. Well, I looked up
4. Not that they were that interesting.
Okay, it's not a competition.
We could make it one.
Keon wins.
I guess.
I mean...
It's always the loser who said it's not a competition.
Exactly.
I mean, you're right.
What a
You're
loser
right.
thing to say.
I'm not going to dispute that. All right. Well, I guess I'll just start then. I've got... The first one is Patrick Cargill as Thorpe. I don't know why I started with him when I think the Colonel was actually credited before him. But anyway. So I had him in The Avengers, a show called Top Secret, the Beatles movie Help, and then like a literal whole ton of stuff that I didn't recognize. Like he had a lot of acting credits, but not a lot that I recognized.
Yeah, that was par for the course with most of these actors for me. A lot of them had been in like between 75 and 100 different things, most of which I had no idea about, or most of which I didn't recognize. So we have Georgina Cookson as number 2 / Butterworth. She'd been in Danger Man. She would go on to be in UFO, and then just like 75 other things that I didn't recognize. But she had a pretty extensive career.
She was in something called Number 10, which I wrote down because it was funny. Given the like whole number 2, number 6 thing.
Right.
And then I've got Donald Sinden as the Colonel. He was in Balto. A movie called Father Dear Father, Two's Company, and then again like a whole bunch of stuff I didn't recognize at all. Yeah,
and we also have another surprise heavy hitter, Grace Arnold, who played the maid. She has over 100 roles, I believe, or it was near 100.
Plays a maid every time.
Oh my god!
Always is a maid.
So she's obviously had a pretty extensive career. Most of the stuff she was in, I did not recognize. She played Mrs. Hudson in the 1968 Sherlock Holmes, though, so that was pretty interesting.
Wow,
that is pretty interesting.
68.
Yeah.
Who played Sherlock Holmes in the 68 Sherlock
I don't know.
Holmes?
I've watched one of the old Sherlock Holmes series. I don't know if it was the 68 one, but it was a black and white like American one. So if it was in that one, if that was the one I watched, then I've actually seen her before. Which is weird to think about, but I don't know. Sherlock Holmes is not like
Mrs. Hudson. Wasn't she the maid?
No, she was the landlady.
Oh, okay. But she was still like bringing Sherlock Holmes like sandwiches and stuff, wasn't she?
Was.
So she kind of was the maid.
Well, okay, I'm not going to say what I was going to say.
7% solution.
Everybody gangster till Sherlock starts using cocaine. Let's see. In terms of listener feedback, the only feedback we have this week is from Sergeant Draino. I wonder who that could be. This is with respect to our episode on this. What was it? The Schizoid Man, I believe. The one before the general.
Yeah.
So he says it is the first and last episode Rover is named in. Albertus was actually a font option on the old Apple Macintosh computers. Yeah, actually, on that note, like after that episode, but before I edited it, I went and looked up the fonts, and I found like multiple copies of the font online. So I don't know what that blog post was talking about having never been digitized, because I found many, many copies of it online, including some that duplicated the original E of the Prisoner font. So
yeah, it's like, it's never been digitized. How in the world did they put it on these DVDs?
Yeah, that too. Great observation on the frantic packing, Dylan. I would say that along with a hastily handwritten resignation is strong evidence that this was a decision Six made spontaneously, no pre-planning. There's also a link to a video for Disney reopening video, but it's Stephen King's The Stand. I think in earlier episodes when they started making badges, they had some limitations on what numbers they could print on them, so you'll see a lot of badges with 1s and 6s in them. Correction, 2s and 6s. Fake Six does say, quote, my place on the Olympic team, unquote. I don't know any other way to interpret that other than he was in the Olympics. I agree. Odd that you would make Olympic competitors into secret agents. When Rover is killed, there's no body. Totally absorbed.
Yeah.
Since Six doesn't know about the general that would place Schizoid Man prior to the general on ABC.
Yeah.
And then one of my favorite episodes of Danger Man has at least 2 actors from the Prisoner in it, not counting MCG, McGowan, and could be seen as the motivation for Six resigning.
Yeah, that's an episode called Yesterday's Enemies, episode of Danger Man.
Makes me think of Yesterday's Enterprise from Star Trek.
Yeah, he wasn't in that one.
I guess you haven't heard haven't heard the general episode where I propose, well, maybe they could still remain in that order, that you could swap the order and just, if you just assume that like he loses his mind after the general, or you just assume that they would rebuild the general, or that somebody else would take up the mantle of the general, which is not an unreasonable assumption necessarily.
Or they're just not even the same general that they're talking about. But
yeah, that too.
I think it's more interesting to have them be the same general, though.
Yeah, I mean, it is more interesting. But, if you wanted to just make your own order, I guess, and you wanted to put them in that order for some reason, they could be different. So, yeah, well, thanks for the feedback, Sergeant Draino. Sounds like a very handsome man. Don't know who he could possibly be.
Whoa.
I'm just making the same, because in our episode on Greeks Bearing Gifts, we also had feedback from the guest who was on that episode that we responded to, and he's like, I don't know who that could be. Sounds like a very handsome man.
Oh, okay.
I'm just repeating the joke. For all like 3 people who listen to Inevitable but not Trust Your Doctor. But other than that, I don't think I have anything else to talk about. Keon, Sergeant Draino, you guys got anything?
I mean, this doesn't have anything to do with the Prisoner, the episode, or anything we're here to do, but like, I just lost the game for the first time in months.
Wow, thanks. I just lost the game.
I have a completely unrelated question.
Okay, go.
Why do you guys keep calling Tosh Toshi?
They go back. Don't they go back and forth in the episodes? Don't they?
They definitely introduced her as Toshi.
They go back and forth between Toshiko and Tosh. I don't think I've ever heard anyone call her Toshi.
Someone or something.
Well, now you have.
Yeah, someone or something called her Toshi, and everything changes, and that's just and it kind of stuck for me at least because at the school I attend, there's a professor whose name is Toshi. So,
yeah, that's what stuck for me as well. Even though, yeah, you're right. They are just calling Tosh now. They called her Toshi like at least once.
0 times.
Yeah, someone or something in Everything Changes or Day One, like in one of those early episodes, either the show or something we read, like called her Toshi, and then we just stuck with it. So
I think you should upload a clip of somebody on Torchwood calling her Toshi.
Well, nose goes, and I'm touching my nose not to do that. So, Dylan, you can go ahead.
Is this the other game? Nose goes. I had not heard that one before.
You've never done nose goes?
No, and you touch your nose, and then you don't have to do it.
Yep.
I will have to use that one on my kid.
On that note, if you would like to email us, you can reach us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters. If you have a video of someone calling you Toshi and you'd like to save me a lot of time, please send it my way. You can find us on YouTube at Decorative Vegetable. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and now Stitcher as well at Inevitable, a classic sci-fi podcast. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us out on Facebook. Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast and follow us on Twitter. And, thanks again for being on, Sergeant Draino. Always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks for working around the scheduling disaster. We had to figure out how it worked. Yeah. But we got it in the end, and I'm glad we did.
Well, as Mrs. Butterworth would say, thanks for having me.
And
to which the correct response is, never mind.
God. Next week, we're finally going to be watching my favorite episode of The Prisoner, Dance of the Dead. But until then, the end.